Hello. This incredible story happened at the Wildlife Sanctuary in South Africa. A baby elephant started its day as usual. The herd was moving around under the warm sun, grazing and looking for food. Finally, they stopped at a natural watering hole to drink and refresh themselves. The youngest member of the herd was especially looking forward to this moment. Splashing in the water was the highlight of his day, as it helped him cool down after hours in the hot sun. As usual, the baby elephant began to play happily in the water. But suddenly, everything got out of control. While rolling around in the muddy pool, it got stuck in the slippery banks of the water hole and couldn't get out. The little elephant panicked and struggled desperately to free itself. But the more he kicked, the deeper he slid into the mud. The rest of the herd didn't notice the young elephant's drama until it was time to move on. As they formed up to leave, they realized something was wrong. As is typical of their kind, the herd gathered around the distressed baby elephant. Some members tried to free it, but all their efforts were unsuccessful. The calf did not sink any lower, but it did not get any further either. The few elephants who helped realized that they could not free the cub alone, so they called the rest of the herd to help. Together, they tried to free the animal, but it seemed hopeless. Their efforts took hours and the situation worsened. Desperate, the elephants cried out for help. In the distance, some visitors to the nature reserve actually heard the elephants' cries, but at first they did not realize the seriousness of the situation. The situation became even more volatile when the still struggling herd heard a noise from a distance. This sound seemed to be getting closer and closer, sending the elephants into a panic. Suddenly, a jeep appeared on the horizon and sped toward the scene. But were the occupants friends or enemies? The herd had no time to find out and protectively surrounded the cub to keep it from possible danger. The men in the jeep drove around the elephants, trying to disperse the herd to find out what was going on. But the animals stood firm and refused to back down even a step. They were determined to do everything in their power to protect one of their most precious members. Now the little elephant faced two opponents, the muddy ground and the men in the menacing-looking jeep. A silent battle broke out between the elephants and the occupants of the jeep. It was clear that neither party would give up so easily. Over the next few hours, the younger members of the herd took flight, putting their own safety above that of the baby. This forced the adult elephants to make a difficult decision. The baby was still hopelessly trapped and had no energy left. However, the jeep still had enough gas, and the driver was determined to break up the herd to see what it was hiding. The older elephants were forced to make a decision and chose to leave the baby behind and keep most of the herd together. The men in the jeep emerged victorious. In the eyes of the poor baby elephant, their intentions didn't matter. It was alone and had to fend for itself. The baby elephant became angry and desperately tried to get out of its predicament, but to no avail. The good news, however, was that the men in the jeep were neither poachers nor tourists and had no intention of harming the baby elephant. They were rangers from the nature reserve who had heard the animal's cries for help. Their goal was to help. Unfortunately, the only way they could act was to make the herd give up their baby. The rangers immediately moved into action. They tried several strategies, but none resulted in success. Then, just as they were about to give up, the baby elephant miraculously began to break free. The men had managed to push aside some of the slippery mud, creating a small path for the elephant. After hours of struggle, he was finally able to free himself. Everyone was overjoyed. The rescue operation was a success. But then it dawned on everyone involved. There was still a problem to solve. Where was the herd? The rangers knew they couldn't leave the baby alone. While they searched for the herd, the safest option was to tie up the elephant and look for his family meanwhile. They needed to find the herd and couldn't risk the baby running away on its own or even attacking one of them. As you can probably guess, the baby elephant was anything but happy about being tied up. It struggled and tried with all its remaining strength to break free from its bonds, but it was not strong enough. Its fate was now in the hands of the rangers, even though it did not yet trust them. However, when it realized there was nothing it could do, it finally calmed down. The next big step for the rangers in reuniting was to gain the trust of the baby elephant. After struggling for so long in the heat, they realized that the baby was probably dehydrated. One of the rangers grabbed a container and filled it with water. When the container was within the elephant's reach, he reacted immediately. He lowered his trunk into the water and began to drink joyfully. For the moment, a kind of truce was established between the rangers and the animal. With water at its disposal, the baby elephant was finally able to feed itself. Not only did it drink until it was no longer thirsty, but it also splashed itself to cool off and clean itself. The cold water on its back was the perfect way to ward off the heat of the sun. With his mood improved, one of the rangers could now move closer to the baby elephant for a closer inspection. It was of great importance to ensure that the elephant was well after this exhausting day. When no injuries were found on its body, the rangers were relieved. As the day progressed, they noticed that the baby elephant looked up nervously at every sound. It was obvious that it missed its family. But amazingly, the next sound the baby elephant heard would be exactly what it had been waiting for all day. Its herd calling for it. The men also heard the sound, but did not know from which direction it came. It turned out that they were back near the watering hole, right where the whole mishap had started. They had come back to pick up the baby elephant, signaling their presence to him. As soon as the cub was close enough to see his herd, he called out to them and was beside himself with joy. The rangers got into their vehicle, drove a safe distance away, and safely watched the action from there. The elephant calf ran joyfully toward its family. The herd responded with equal excitement, and people witnessed an incredible moment. If this story touched you as much as it touched us, let us know in the comments.